Let's talk about Fight the Power. You've heard it. I love it. It was released in 1989, and it's just as unapologetic and relevant today as it was back then. Public Enemy was made up of Chuck D, Flavor Flav, Professor Griff, DJ Lord, and Terminator X. Now, the song was created for Spike Lee's movie Do the Right Thing, and if you haven't seen it, I'll play a short clip.
I know you can't stand it. You can't stand it.
Hey, Sal, how we gonna bring from the wall here?
You want brothers on the wall?
Love.
Get your own place. You can do what you want to do.
What I tell you about that noise? What I tell you about them pictures?
And that's just part of the movie. Like, it's a really interesting movie. The movie also makes you like think, literally, you know, what is the right thing to do. And here's a bit of a spoiler alert. Towards the end of the movie, actually, I think this is the final scene of the movie, if I remember correctly. You had a picture of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. I don't think I need to say Jr. Two men with like two different ideologies and how to handle things or race-related things. And it makes you question like of these two guys, you know, I've got my personal preference of whose method I would rather follow, but it's hard to say decisively that this is the right way to follow because you don't know if it's going to yield the results that you want. And then you've got to think, is it always about results, or is the process to get to those results as equally important? Anyways, back to the song. This was produced by the Bomb Squad. It's sampled from James Brown's Funky Drummer, and I'm pretty sure you've heard this drum break over 1,000 times. Well, maybe you haven't heard it 1,000 times, but it's been sampled over 1,000 times. The beat was laid down by Clyde Stubblefield, and if you listen to the original track at around like 4:40, you hear James Brown saying, you know, give the drummer some. And Clyde delivered. He kept the groove, stayed in the pocket, and just smashed it. But also, you know, back then with the really heavy sample culture and not so much sophistication back then where you could just extract stems, you can understand why loads of people decided to sample a really good groove where you just have drums. You know, for most of it, that is when James Brown isn't talking, you've got drums, and, you know, it really helps with sampling cleanly, especially back then. I think the funny thing about this is Clyde Stubblefield has no royalties from over the 1,000 songs that have actually used that piece of music he played. He got paid for the actual record itself as for services as a musician, but I can't imagine what it feels like to know that you're like the most sampled drummer in the world and you don't get any royalties, no credits for that. That sucks, really. Anyways, we're going to go back to the record. Fast forward to today, and the Fight the Power has been reimagined by heavyweights such as Nas, Rhapsody, Black Thought, Jahi, YG, and Questlove. And they did this during the Black Lives Matter movement in, you know, the George Floyd era. And it was lovely to see these legends here's two things. It was lovely seeing legends spit on this track. Kind of sad that it's the same issues, albeit in a different form, that we are still talking about till today. But that being said, I'm a fan of Nas, but Rhapsody and Black Thought really killed that record. Alright, let's move on to the music itself. We're breaking it down in 4/4 time. There are 5 distinctive sounds driving the beat. You've got the kick, you've got the hi-hat, you've got the first snare, the second snare, and the clap. Okay, so let's move on to the hi-hat. Hi-hat is very simple in this groove. We're just keeping it tight with evenly spaced notes on the beat and on the and of each beat as well. So let's do that. Next, we've got the kick drum. So here's where things get fun. For the first bar, we place the kick on the 1 of the first beat, the and of the first beat, the R of the second beat, the and of the third beat, and the and of the fourth beat. It's the same pattern for the third bar as well. But for bars 2 and 4, it changes slightly. We drop the kick on the and of the fourth beat. Easy, let me show you. And now we move on to the first snare. First snare is pretty straightforward. It lands in the second beat of every bar, but with a little twist. In bars 2 and 4, there's a soft hit on the fourth beat. Now this is where the clap comes in. It just layers the snare and it lands on the second beat of each bar. I think it's worth playing it without the clap and with the clap. So this is without the clap. Finally, we move on to the second snare. The second snare goes in on the and of the third beat and on the E of the fourth beat in every bar. I think there's one last thing missing where the snare hits on the fourth bar. We need to nudge that a bit. I'm probably going to do it to be up to about 24, 25%, maybe 22%. I'm going to do the first 2 bars with the nudge and the last 2 bars without the nudge so we can hear the difference. Yeah, so that nudge adds that extra bounce. And that's the entire song. We can slightly pull the hi-hat back just a little bit to give it that extra bounce. Alright, so this is the groove that gave Fight the Power its legendary status. There you have it, guys. I'll leave the link to the Ableton files and sounds in the description box below. If you've enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments which iconic beat you would want me to cover next.